Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be the driver's seat for today's show as we strive to learn how to stop doing deals and start closing for life. We have a great show for you today, and really honored and blessed to have one of my all-time absolute favorite people in the world on here, a guy I genuinely admire. This is my uncle, Mike Dandurand. Hey, Mike, thanks for coming on.
Josh, glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Glad we could get you on here. I know you're a busy guy, a partially retired yet still managed to be super busy guy.
Well, trying to go with the flow and let life lead me where it leads me now.
That's a beautiful place to be in, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about a little bit. But for starters, for the folks that don't know you, because I do, tell folks what you do. What is it you do?
Well, I'm a pharmacist.
Okay.
And, as a pharmacist, my main job, if you will, is it used to be fill prescriptions, but now it's just primarily consulting. I take care of multiple different hospices in which I become the authority on medications and the treatments for different disease states based on a hospice or end of life care. That's what I do now.
Beautiful. And so what got you started what got you on that path? Pharmacy, where did that come from?
Okay. So I was a history major in college, and I got out of college, and I was trying to determine, okay, I might be an adult now, but I'm not sure. But Luann and I had just gotten married, and I needed to figure out what I'm going to do with myself. And so I thought, well, you know what, I'll just, I'll get a PhD in history because I love history, and I'll just teach it. Good plan until I sort of researched it. And I still love history, still one of my favorite thing. However, when I was trying to determine what I was going to be when I grew up, and I researched into, well, what does a PhD actually make? Well, the salary income at that time was a little dodgy. I'm thinking it was, maybe 10,000, 12,000 a year. But remember, this is 1971. And so then I thought, well, okay, I'll put in my time, and I'll go up the ladder, and I'll make more. And so then at the school I just graduated from, I asked those folks, well, hey, how often do you have openings in the history department for a PhD? Well, every once in a while. We've got one now. Oh, okay, good. How many applicants do you get? Well, we got 1,100 right now. Well, okay. I was probably going to get a PhD at a state university. And, if you got 1,100, you probably got some people that are a little higher in the food chain of universities than the one I was going to get one from. So I thought, maybe this isn't the right path. So I thought, well, what am I going to do now? I love sciences and math. Anyway, I'd taken those kinds of things. And so my brother-in-law was a pharmacist, and, I'll do that. So it was just serendipitously, maybe if he'd been a plumber, I would have done, probably not that, but I wish I could do that. But I probably wanted to do something academically. And so that's the direction I went. Just purely luck.
Beautiful. So just happenstance and kismet, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you got to go where the Lord takes you.
That's it. That's it. Follow the hand. Absolutely. So you've been pretty successful in this business that you built. And I know I've heard the stories many times of just how hard it was in the beginning. So for the folks listening, I mean, just a little taste of what it was like at the beginning for you.
Okay, so how I got into the business of when I was in pharmacy school, um, my best friend, also in pharmacy school, he and I decided that, our goal would be to own our own business. And in those days, the chains were a minor player. Independent pharmacy was everywhere. And so we always wanted to do that. So when we got out of school, we thought, well, we'll work for a while and then, we'll figure out a way to get together. And so he was from a small town and he went back to that small town and I went back to, the city I'm from. And I went to work for an independent, stayed there for a while, then went to work for a chain with the intent I'm going to work, and my intent is to own my own business. So one day, my father-in-law is driving east on the east side of town, and he sees a pharmacy out there, and it's been a guy that has started pharmacies, multiple pharmacies, and so he goes in and talks to the guy, and the guy's elderly. As I look back on it, he was probably young at my age. But anyway, he my father-in-law goes in there and he says, you know what, you're, and he was very direct. You're kind of old. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to still do this? You ought to, let my son-in-law come work here and then, we'll figure out something or whatever. And so we used to go to my in-laws' house all the time when we were younger, and until they passed. And he says, why don't you go talk to that guy? Maybe it's something that you can do. So, well, I got to figure out a plan. If I'm going to work for him, I'm not going to just quit the job I have without a plan. I think everybody needs a plan. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, if you have a plan of, okay, I want to own my own business, it's how I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
So my plan, as I was going forward, was to I'm going to try to get this guy to hire me, and also figure out a way for him to finance me. So that, because I have no money.
That's a little bit of a stumbling block.
A little, yeah. It's a big wall to climb over. So anyway, I talked to him and this guy, and I said to him, here's my plan. I'd like for you to hire me, and I'd like for us, he and I, to figure out a way for him to sell his business to me. And here's the other part. I want you to finance me. And so he thought about that for a while, and I gave him, the little formula about how this was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Over X number of years, I was going to pay him back, and it was going to be a win-win based on that. And after a couple months or whatever, we talked about this, and he agreed to do it. And then the bad part was that he agreed to do it because then the work becomes involved. And what I would say to anybody that's ever going to go into business for themselves, be prepared to underpay yourself and be prepared to overwork.
Yeah.
Because however much work you think you're going to work, double it.
Yeah.
So at that time, he was open 8:30 in the morning till 9 at night, Monday through Saturday, and 11 to 7 on Sunday. Well, I said, okay. So I worked Monday through Saturday, and he was going to work the Sundays. And he did that for like a month. And he says, you know what? I kind of like this idea, and I'm not coming anymore.
Man.
So then it's 7 days a week, and we were closed 6 days a year. Christmas, New Year's, the major holidays, those, Thanksgiving, those kind of things. And so I had 6 days off a year. And fortunately, my wife, Luann, whom you know very well, um, worked with me and we had a little boy at that time, and um, Matthew would have been, let's see, 3 maybe, or almost 3, and so she would bring him to work, and we would work, and we did deliveries at that time, so the delivery person was her. And so the bad part was that it got worse in that you don't just open the doors at 8:30, show up at 8:29.
Mm-hmm.
You got to show up about, half hour, 45 minutes before, get ready for the day. And then you close at 9 o'clock, but you don't actually get to leave at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it's just a beast of a day. Um,
And that's every day.
that's every day. That's every day except Sunday. And Sunday was the real break. Went at 11, closed at 7. So, we did that for, goodness, a couple of years. I got, and I frankly just wore out. And then I don't know if you want to hear the dynamics of what happened then. I think Luann told you about that when I got ill, and the whole city came and helped and kept our business.
That was an amazing story. And just the idea of the city and community coming together to take and help one of their own is something I think that it's sad as a society we've kind of moved away from.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like the Reader's Digest version of it was that you got sick and couldn't keep going, and basically the pharmacists from around the community came and pitched in time at your business to keep you guys going.
Yeah.
Was really a very, very cool thing. And so I wanted to take it and cover that sense, that idea of just where this started and the tremendous amount of hard work that went in, because I think that kind of helps to answer my next question, which is, I know the hard work is a big part, but where did all the success come from for you? What do you think it was?
Okay. So the one thing I always tried to do was never worry about making money, while at the same time worry about making money. So what I always tried to remind myself to do is that the most important person was the person I was talking to, or the person that I was, if it was a patient that was coming in, a customer, they were always more important than I was. So it was their needs that were more important than my needs. And because of that, the money eventually came, but I always had that philosophy. And I always told all of my employees, that's what we're concerned with. And our concerns are only the people that we're talking to. They're more important than we are.
Oh man, love that. And that so ties in with exactly what we talk about on here and teach all the time. And in my industry, in real estate, it's one of the things that's absolutely missed. The customer is absolutely one of the last considerations they have, except how do I keep this person working with me? But as far as why they're coming to me in the first, any of the thought that would go into how to best serve a person. And it's not just in this industry, it's in so many, where we forget that our survival is dependent upon us meeting their needs in the best and most meaningful way for them. If we can do that, they'll come back over and over and over again. And so really the paycheck is not the goal. Making sure that they're taken care of in the best way possible, their needs are met in the best way possible, is what brings the paychecks with it.
Absolutely. And the philosophy that I had because of that, they would tell other people. So then the word of mouth got going. And so I always told our folks, when I say our folks, that the folks that work for us, is that I want their experience to be so good that if they ever do go with somebody else, they have regrets.
I love it. Absolutely. Yeah. Folks, for those of everybody that knows me, I'm always talking about closing customers for life. That's what my whole thing is about. And it starts from, just great conversations I've had with Mike and people like that. This is where the business model, the success comes from it. It may be a road that has to be traveled to get there. But the reality of it is, if you do the job well, you're creating an advocate every single time you send somebody out the door. That should be the goal. I want to send somebody out there that's going to proselytize about how that I'm the place to go, because the way that we do things here is so much better than what they can get someplace else. It just makes sense, because otherwise you have to send your dollars out, your advertising dollars out to try to do that work for you, as opposed to just doing your work so well that your work speaks for you and creates those advocates. And so that's beautiful stuff, Mike.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's what we did. And then I had another philosophy just to share with you.
Sure.
I always told the people that work for me that everybody's a leader. Now, you have the opportunity to be a leader, or you have the opportunity to not be one. So, and you always make leadership decisions, no matter what level of service that you are, what level of employee you are. So whether it's the person that's doing deliveries or it's me. And because of that leadership decision that they're making, it's how they treat it, how they treat that person. If they treat that person in a good way, they appreciate who you are, and they want to come back. If you treat that person in a bad way, forget about it. And that means that the delivery person, who's probably the last person to see, when we're delivering a prescription, if they treat that customer poorly, forget about it. That's what the customer remembers, the last contact they had with you. I guess my point is, everybody has to have their game on all the time. You can't turn it off. It's not one of those things that, you can flip a switch and it's on, and, oh, I've talked with that person, I flipped it off. It's how you treat people. So if you get in the habit of treating everybody that way, then you don't have to worry about, turning that switch on, because it's always there. You always make sure that the person that you're in contact with, you're attentive to. They're the most important person you're talking to.
Love it, man. That's great advice. It really is. So, Mike, what do you like best about what you do?
Well, now, it was, it's a long journey to get where I am now.
Sure.
As we
maybe rephrase, what, looking back, was your favorite part of doing this job for the length of time that you've done it? And now tell us what your favorite part is today.
Okay. So, we opened a few stores, and I like that. And I like the chase. And we opened different kinds of stores. So we got into compounding, and we got into long-term care and things like that. And, we just had a small business, if you will, but it grew a little bit. And one of the things that I always remember when I was in school is that I had a professor, and he told me, he said, try never to use the word no. So if somebody asks you if you can do something, before you say no, go over in your mind if there's a way to say yes.
Yeah.
First. And so the way I got into different parts of pharmacy was that I always kept that in my head, and I have it to this day. Figure out a way to say yes so that you can diversify. Because you need, in my business anyway, you need revenue streams. And it can't be that, it's just the prescription. There has to be other revenue streams. So it became compounding, became long-term care, became consulting, those kind of things to develop revenue streams. And then after I developed those kind of things, then, how do I expand those revenue streams? So the best way I've always felt, unfortunately, when I was in school, I took accounting and marketing and economics and those kind of things. So I, could be a little bit, not the smartest tool in the shed in business, but, at least I had a basis.
Help yourself out a little bit. Yeah.
Help myself out a little bit. So I knew that I had to expand those, and so go out and get new business and things like that. And so I love that chase. I love
Yeah.
that. And I still do. And I still do that to some extent. But where I am now is just primarily with consulting. So, um, and because of that, that's the part I like to do best. So when I, you know, turned that page in my life a few years ago, I said, that's what I want to do. And I'll let the other part of the business be run by others. So I do consulting now.
That's great. And the thing in listening to what you just said that I love so much is that if I was going to talk about my dad and you're both very different kinds of guys. Yet that recipe of how do I say yes? I feel like I need to say no, but why is like, do we really have to say no? Isn't there a way we could make this? Like, why is it that we have to say no? Isn't there some way we could figure out how to do this?
Yeah.
That was always a component of how I grew up and what I was taught, like, well, wait a second, why don't we do it a different way? And that willingness to look at things, to use the only one real true natural resource in the universe, the gray matter between our ears, to take and figure out, hey, look, maybe this is an opportunity to do something new and different. Maybe this is a way to get better. Maybe nobody's thought of doing it this other way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big deal. It's helped me so many ways because one of the things that in our compounding that we do and taking care of, and I do lots of hospice consulting. So, somebody will call me up. Just to give you an example, obviously no names for HIPAA, but we had so we have a patient, and this patient has some memory issues, cognitive issues, and they've found a way to get outside of their facility.
Hmm.
And they've gone out to, and they're standing by this fence and they won't let anybody near them. Well, obviously they need some kind of help to get them to calm down so we can bring them back in the facility. So, they'll call me and they'll say, well, they won't take an oral medication. We can't get near them to give them an injection. What can we do? So the thought process, well, we'll have to do something topically. So, we did something topically. So they went in there and, they could hold the person's arm or their, rub their neck a little bit, apply the medication. The medication worked. We got them into the building. So you have to figure out, this yes thing. Saying yes has helped me. And, how do I figure out a way to take care of people if they can't do things traditionally that way? So it's always that yes thing.
I love it. I don't know that I gave necessarily context, but you're a successful businessman in the Midwest there. My father was a successful businessman in New York City and down here in Miami. And regardless of geography, regardless of the community, regardless of the differences in the type, there's certain things that are just these consistencies that make you successful in business. And that willingness to take and find a way, that willingness to overcome and adapt is such a big one. That seems to be a running theme from everybody that I talk to. So what do you think makes you good at what you do, Mike?
I don't know. It's probably a better question left to ask other people. Luann's been a blessing to me, very supportive, and I, probably don't give her enough credit because she's, been 50-50 in this project forever. And so I think probably a good percentage of the credit, goes to her. And I think I've been, blessed by the good Lord to, to help me. And I think the thing that helped me as well is, came from, your mom and I came from, we weren't poor, but we weren't wealthy either. And so then by being that, I think you learn how to work. And your parents still can instill, how do you work? Okay. If you're going to get paid for something, you're going to do a good job. And if you don't do a good job, as somebody in my family used to say, you never have time to do things right, but you always have time to do things over. Okay. Got the over part down pretty good after a while, and
Yeah.
then learned how to do things right, or at least put in the effort to do things right. And, um, if you always take into consideration what you're trying to accomplish and do it the best you can, you don't have to worry.
Yeah.
And I think I've mentioned that PDS thing to you. Um, I don't know if poor, driven, and smart.
Yeah. I
I
remember that
can
now.
the poor and the driven part. The smart, I'm still working on.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
For
So,
sure.
and that thing was kind of instilled in me. I think your mom has it. I don't know where we got it. We just have it. So that's what got me through. And then those two other things I mentioned.
Yeah. So what is it you think that created that edge, that kept that fire burning for you, that helped you to push through? Because I mean, a lot of other people wind up in the situation that you are in. I would imagine they try something and it winds up being, this tiger they have by the tail, which is what it sounds like when you started this business. You had a tiger by the tail. And so what
Right.
gave you the edge? What kept you going?
Well, that's a great question. I think the thing that kept me going is I just wouldn't accept failure.
Hmm.
And so the other part is that, somebody told Luann and I that, okay, it's going to take you 5 years to break even. Okay. So I thought to myself, well, at some point I said, I don't know if I'm going to get through the year. I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
But then if we can just get to that 5 year mark, and if we continue to, um, try to mine cost, um, do the positive things that we've been trying to do, eventually that 5 year mark will come, and we'll make money. And we did a number of different things, trying to figure out revenue streams. I'm not going to burden you with that, but so we got to that 5 year mark, and we finally started to make money. So I think having that carrot to get to that 5 year mark, that there may be a chance and we could make it. So I just tried not to look 20 years down the road. I was looking at year by year, and then can I get to that 5 year mark? And each year we progressed, and we would grow exponentially each year. And I think that got me to the next year.
Yeah.
So I knew I was doing the right thing if I could just maintain myself. And that's how I think
And
that's how I got to year 5.
And so I think that because one of the big things we talk about is the idea of managing ourselves, and the fact that you were able to, had the wherewithal to have the numbers in front of you that gave you the hope. Because I mean, let's be honest, that hope is such an important tool in all
Absolutely.
this, especially when, the losses sort of pile up. You got to figure out how to take it and pull out of that, that there's a win in the future. We have to maintain our own hope, because there's constantly this balance, I find, with myself, and I think it exists for most people, of when to use the carrot and when to use the stick with ourselves, when to be on our case that you're not pushing hard enough, and when to sit there and say, hey, look, you know what, you need a little bit of a boost here, because life is hard and this isn't an easy thing. And so having those goals, having those metrics to measure, hey, you know what, we're not winning yet, but we're making progress. We're not losing by 40 runs a game. It's only a 4-run game now. Hey, we're getting closer. And I think that's a super important part of this.
It's a huge part. I mean, if you can, if you have the right recipe, the right formula, and you've got your metrics that you can measure yourself by, and you continue to accomplish those metrics. And by that I mean, sales. For us it was number of prescriptions, and we had a full line drugstore at that time. Um, so we had metrics by department, and so I would always use the metrics. I would evaluate each item on my shelf to determine if that was a good item to have on my shelf.
Right.
And if I couldn't have a return on investment based on per item, and we probably had 20,000 items
Mm.
or maybe more, I don't know. Uh, so I would evaluate departments, and then I would evaluate each item
Item.
to determine if there was a return on investment. So just to give you a little background, I'm probably going to bore you with this stuff. When we started out, we had a school supply item, we had a gift aisle, we had a toy aisle, we had a full line cosmetic aisle with a cosmetician. We sold blenders, we sold toasters. Um, we had a pet department. We sold screwdrivers. Okay. After a few years, we no longer had a pet department. After a few years, we no longer sold screwdrivers.
Mm-hmm.
After a few years, we no longer sold blenders. We replaced those things with things that could be profitable.
Right.
We evaluated those items, and it's work, per item,
Sure.
and we have a completely different mix of things, in our stores. Small company still, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
but
mean,
but that's how we did it. It was all on metrics and
and
stuff.
I love it, that idea that the item has to earn the real estate that it takes up. You're going to take up space on my shelf. That space needs to give me a return on investment. If you can't do the job, out.
That's right. That's what we did.
I love it. It's beautiful. So, and I think you may have already shared this, but I want to give you a chance to kind of revisit it from this standpoint. What is or are the most important things you've learned in the process of what you do? What are the big lessons?
Well, number one, you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. Um, well, first of all, you have to have something that you will love and you want to be in. Okay. Then you have to have a plan about how I'm going to get there. Once you have that plan, you have to be flexible because, once you're there and you get in the trenches, the plan becomes clouded and you have to redefine the plan because, life changes. We learned so many different things about, vendors and how you could trust or not trust a vendor kind of thing. So we learned how to handle vendors, how to handle our people. But the most important thing we learned is how to how to treat people, how to treat our customers, treat our patients, things like that. And again, just to go back to it, the person in front of you, if you always think of them as more important than you are, then you got a chance. If you ever lose sight of that, just, put down your cards and turn in your chips. You're done.
It's not the place for you. Not the place for you. So, maybe the one thing that we need to describe, because we've talked about the heartache of the store number one and what that was. What did you grow your business into?
Okay, so then we decided that we had an east side location. We thought we'd do a west side location. So when we were determining that, or wait a minute, I may have opened a clinic pharmacy before that. But regardless, I'm going to say the west was the second location. We did the due diligence that you have to do, and by due diligence, you see who lives in your neighborhood, kind of thing. Who are the what's their income, what's their dollar spend availability, what's who are the prescribers there. Is there a deficiency of what you're trying to do in that area?
Yeah.
So you have to do your due diligence. The other thing I had, and it's more of a personal level, I had a guy that worked for us, a pharmacist that admired a lot, and just a terrific human being, and he lived in that part, and he was involved in that part of the community, so it was a good fit. It was a good fit there. So once the numbers told us that we could be there, and that we found somebody that wanted to be there, and he had our concept
Mm-hmm.
of the person that you're talking to is more important than yourself. Then we thought we had the right recipe
To
to start a business
expand.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we took what we did over there, we took compounding and things like that over there. And that's how we got to that store.
And so how many locations do you have now?
6.
Six
We're still
locations.
small. Yeah, we're still small.
It's a lot better. 6 is a lot more than 1. I mean, I'm using my fingers here, and there's a lot more with 6 than 1. So no,
Yeah.
that's impressive. As a lone guy starting from not figuring out how you're gonna be able to finance the first one to build 6. And I know that you've seen some success, a beautiful house, raised a beautiful family, a lot of good things have come your way from the. Let's be honest. What it was an investment. This extreme investment, and not money so much as personal effort, sweat equity that went in from both you and your wife to make this thing that's allowed you now on the other side of it. Because there was a lot of sacrifice that went into this.
That's the hard part, is the sacrifice. As I think I've told you before, my oldest, I don't know, I didn't know I didn't get to hear him do his first words. I didn't get to hear him, walk and those kind. I did hear his first words because we hadn't started our business, but I didn't get to see him do a lot of things that you do. I can remember, as I was trying to learn how to do this, how to learn how to start a business. There's just so many things that you miss. Unfortunately, Luann would bring the kids up, but it's you just miss things.
Sure. And that's I suppose that's the thing. I mean, eyes wide open for anybody listening, that sacrifice sometimes are things that are by their nature irreplaceable.
It's regrets.
It is.
Yeah.
But then again, on the other side of that equation, there's regrets the other way, knowing that you had your magnum opus in you and you never got it out. And so what that looks like.
Yeah. The other thing I used to tell my boys and Margie, my daughter as well, the people that complain they never got a chance are the ones that never took it.
Yeah.
So, maybe I've said that to you before. Probably, because I have these certain things I say. You probably heard it. But
no, but it's good to say it, because that was one of the things I was going to say to you. I was going to ask you about a piece of advice that you'd give to the folks listening. But I love your story, because you're not coming from wealth. Your father wasn't a wealthy guy.
no.
You didn't grow up with. I mean, there wasn't huge amounts of privilege that you came from, and so you had to take in. This is what the road to success actually looked like. People see it on the other side. They see you now and they think, wow, wouldn't it be great to be him? But this is the other piece of it, is all the things that had to be given up along the way, and counting those costs on the way in with your head up, knowing, hey, look, if you want this thing on the other end, this is what you got. These are what the opportunities look like. It's not smooth. It's not easy. It's bumpy. It's hard work, and you got to sign on for it. All in. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
It's super bumpy. I mean, anybody that thinks, I mean, when we first started, we'd open the doors and nobody came in. I mean, nobody came in. I mean, that's hard. We'd
Sure. Demoralizing.
you work a 12 and a half hour day or 13-hour day that you're open. Then the other part, and you've seen 20 customers, and then try to keep your spirits up and things like that. But it's plowing.
Yeah.
It's not sailing, it's plowing, and you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared to do that. It's the easiest thing is to give up.
Oh,
The
sure.
hardest thing is to persevere when it seems impossible. And it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was fortunate. I mean, let's be honest. My father-in-law was so helpful to me in terms of he pushed me a little bit, probably sooner than I was ready. But then, to come up with a plan, this guy has faith in me that like, he's going to finance me.
Yeah.
Why is this guy going to, why is he doing that? Well, I was lucky. I got him, when he was ready to, he'd already been doing in the location a year and a half or something like that. And I think he was worn out. So he, just the right time. I think timing was it too. I was blessed.
Absolutely. But I mean, in order to be in the position to be blessed, you had to be ready for the opportunity when it came along. And that's the big, it's a mix of things. I mean, it's never going to be 100% you. There's going to always be some other force, some higher power, some kismet, some fate that's got to take and bring those stars together. But when they do align, you need to be ready to jump.
Yeah. I mean, and again, the other thing was, not saying no.
Yep.
Not saying
absolutely.
no.
And I think that would be, I think the one piece of advice you'd give listeners, it sounds like to me, is that never just figure out how not to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been so easy to say no. Yeah, I'm too scared. I'm too young, all those kind of things. And if you continue to give you reasons, what they say about an excuse, if you're looking for one, any you'll do. Well,
yeah.
Don't give yourself the opportunity for that excuse.
And again, it's crazy, but we come back to this, as I call it, the schizophrenia of the human interaction, where it's you managing you dealing with you. And that's such an important piece of this whole thing. You have to understand that, it's not that you just wake up and it works. It's a diligent managing of your own expectations, your own effort, and holding yourself accountable, and not giving yourself the slack to be able to give in. The idea of holding on, even when everything about you and every inch of you, the Kipling poem comes to mind, that poem,
yeah. If.
Yeah. Just, and for those of you that are listening that haven't read it, it's definitely a worthwhile read. But that idea of just holding on when all else is gone, just because you're going to hold on, and giving yourself that, just persevering that extra little bit, and understanding that perseverance is actually what lets you earn the success. Is the fact that other people are giving up at that point. You staying there is what separates you from those that aren't going to make it, is that perseverance to hang on. Yeah. And so it's an important piece of it. So let me ask you this. This is maybe the 10,000 foot view for a second. Yeah. What are you most proud of in business that you were able to accomplish?
Geez, I don't know. I never even thought about that. I guess just, people, like I sometimes I go into places sometimes and they'll say, "Are you that guy?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I'm that guy." And that people recognize you, and they recognize you enough to say it in a positive way, as opposed to, "Are you that guy?"
Yeah. And
they don't. Are you that guy? And that people see you in a positive light. I think that's rewarding.
Sure.
I don't know if that's the most rewarding. I'd have to think about it for a longer period of time.
I think it's a different answer if you think about it for a longer period of time. That first reaction is what I really wanted, because I think about that too, to some extent. What the funeral looks like, and who are the people who come in who are like, this person changed my life. And I know when I went to my dad's funeral, there were people there who I did not even have any clue of the impact that his life had on theirs, and them saying that this guy meant the world to them because of something that he did, and just some little thing that, it was one guy, that he knew that was sick or something, and he used to randomly send flowers to the guy's house to let him know he was thinking of him. And just out of the blue, because that's who my dad was. I mean, everybody always thought this hardcore, whatever, but he was a big softie in his own way. And that guy showed up, and he's like, there were times I was ready to end it all, and I would get something from him. And so you never quite know that what you're doing when it means everything to somebody else. And so trying to keep that front of mind, it helps us to be better people. I think.
I think that's what we should all strive to do. I didn't think of my funeral kind of thing. That didn't come to my mind, but
Sure, but I mean, I think it
yeah,
ties together, that because I mean, you're seeing it in life, the impact that, you had your reputation that you've built from the way you've done business. Um,
I
it's
hope people in general would say that he was a kind person, a good person, did
sure.
right. I hope all the people that have worked for me would say that as well, that I treated them fairly and did the right thing by them.
Sure.
That's what I would hope. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how about we flip it? We take it and we expand the lens just a little bit. How I think I know the answer to this question,
Ah,
but what are you most proud of in life that you've been able to accomplish?
oh, probably my family.
That would have been
Uh,
my bet.
yeah. Uh, I mean, we've had our challenges. I won't say we haven't had our challenges, and we still have our challenges, and we're getting through them. Uh, but that, I mean, I'm proud of you. Proud of your brother, and uh, you know, we don't have a huge family. We don't. My wife has a huge family, and I'm part of that family. But um, our close knit part. I love my wife's family as well, but I mean, all of my nieces and nephews mean a lot to me. I think you and I are very close, and I appreciate that about our relationship. I can remember growing up. I can remember you growing up, and you're wondering, well, what's this kid going to be like, or this kind of thing, and you're just you're not sure, and the one thing I know about you and your sister and your brother, I mean, you've always been hardworking, and I think you guys have always gotten that, and I think my kids as well. So fortunately, you got that part. Uh, um, you're smarter than us, so you must have got that from somebody else.
I don't know that that's true. I
Probably
don't know
your
that
dad.
that's true.
Yeah, but so but those kind of things.
I've
That,
got to
that
say, I mean, you
yeah,
raised some great kids, and your kids are all awesome people, and they have great families. And I mean, lots of people say they're proud of their family, but I think that you more so than most have great reason to say that, because you raised some great kids and great grandkids and really cool, wonderful people to be around. So I'm not just saying that to throw bouquets. I'm not the bouquet throwing type here.
yeah,
I'm friends with all of them, and they're great people.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
And that is a great legacy. And I know that you're going to give the credit to that largely to Luann, but
Absolutely,
I know
absolutely.
I know that you were a huge part, and setting that example that you did of hard work and diligence and doing all that stuff. It's not what do they say? It's not what's taught, it's what's caught. And you see it every day. And I know your kids have tremendous respect for you, and that's a wonderful thing to see. But let me ask you this. Let's take it back to the personal level a little bit. What do
Yeah.
you do to unwind?
Well, I mean, the main thing I do, I go home and Luann will, we'll just talk about the day, what's been going on with the two of us. I, uh, on a regular basis, that's what we do. I do still like to play tennis and golf, and don't get to play them nearly as much as I'd like to. Wish I could play them more. Um, but those kind of things. I read all the time. I still feel like um, I want to learn, because I have students. I still have students, pharmacy students, which I love. They make me want to learn more, so I can be. They're all smart, and I have to be smarter than they are a little bit. Uh, so I have to continue to read and things like that.
Love it.
So I enjoy all those things, but that's kind of how I unwind. But mostly it's with Luann.
I I, uh, I love that, because I put the same pressure on myself because I teach classes, and like, you never want to be teaching the class and have somebody ask you the question. You go like, I have no idea. Like, you never want to be in that position. And
Yeah,
so it kind of forces you. It's the hot poker and the ribs to like, hey, you got to stay on top of your game. It's a
yeah,
problem if you don't know what the heck you're talking about.
yeah,
So I know that you always have stuff kind of going on, even though, sold the business, kind of retired, sort of, kind of, not really.
yeah.
What is next? What's the project that you have on your plate right now? What's next for
Well,
you?
well, I'm still involved. I mean, they've allowed me to do that. Um, so I'm still trying to. I still enjoy the chase. I still enjoy my students. Um, on the personal side, at some point, we hope to just be the people that become annoying grandparents and uh, visit our kids and their kids, and spoil our grandkids as much as we can, and then leave. Uh,
Beautiful.
and I think that's our long term goal is just to do that, stay active. Uh, maybe do a little bit of traveling, but you know, eventually come down to see you guys more and things like that.
Be
Yeah,
great. That
yeah,
sounds like definitely you're gonna have to speak to HR about the promotion of that job. That sounds like a pretty good job title to get.
yeah. I'm trying to stay away from HR. There's still somebody in charge of that department. Yeah,
Leave them alone. HR is not our favorite place to go.
yeah,
All right, Mike, that's pretty much all I had for you today, bud. Thank you so much. It was a very
my pleasure.
fast, almost hour of talking to you. Uh,
Yeah.
I never get bored of it. It's always a great conversation. So thank you for your time.
Oh, anytime, Josh. You know that.
All right, folks, I'm going to say goodbye. This is Mike Dandurand. He's pharmacist, went from one shop to big operation. Some of the stuff we didn't mention to you, colonel in the U.S. military,
Yeah.
um, a professor, a very accomplished guy. You got to watch out for Mike. He's sneaky. He'll go under the radar on you. He's very, very humble guy. But this is where we're trying to get to, folks. Trying to want to see somebody that built something. This is the model. So, till next time, take care.